All right, so what does tonight's agenda look like? We're going to start with some introductions. We're going to provide some information from the nurse department, talk about the school organizations, procedures, what kindergarten will be like for your child, and some pointers, what the next steps are going to be, and then we'll have time for questions and answers. Also, at the end of every slide or every 2 slides, I will stop and ask if you have any questions. Feel free to unmute yourself and ask away. There is a chat room that I'm not able to monitor at the same time, but some of the principals are on here, so they might monitor the chat room as well if you're more comfortable asking a question via the chat room. But please feel free to unmute yourself. It's not a very formal night. So you'll see the quote on this slide. I've always loved the first day of school better than the last day of school. First are best because they are beginnings. And that is what's so great about kindergarten. It's a true beginning and entry into our school system. Even if they went to pre-K, kindergarten, it's like you're part of a building, you're part of a school community. So it really is special. And as an administrator, every administrator on this Zoom call, I was going to say Google Meet, knows that when you're having a bad day, you enter a kindergarten classroom. That is the trick. You instantly feel 1,000 times better, and it's the best thing in the world. Okay, so I'm going to start with the information that's really critical. So from the nurses, you must submit your child's did I skip one thing? Hold on. Nope. All right, my slides are out of order, but we'll get to the introductions in a little bit. From the nurses, you must submit your child's immunization record and your child's physical exam. As far as the specific form, most doctors' offices do have like a universal physical form or an immunization list that you can print out. That is fine, but you do have to submit it to the nurse at your child's school. And you'll see the nurses over there to the right. Those are their email addresses. Also, if your child has any food allergies or any allergies that require an EpiPen, make sure you reach out to your school nurse as well and notify them. You can do that now. You don't have to wait until the summer. You can absolutely do that this week and get that done with, so that way the nurse can prepare. If there's any other health issues that the nurse should be made aware about before school starts, please reach out to them. If your child must take a medication at school, you have to make sure the nurse knows, okay? Because children are not able to take medication on their own. Every medication that enters the school building does have to go through the nurse's office, okay? So all of that stuff does have to be made aware to your child's school nurse. Now we're gonna go to the introduction. So we have 3 elementary buildings in Saddlebrook. They're 3 K-6 buildings. Franklin Elementary School, we have on this call tonight is Mrs. Cohen, the principal. So she is waving if you see her. The administrative assistant at Franklin School is Mrs. Ramos. The nurse is Mrs. Dialessi, and the counselor is Amy Burns. And at Helen I. Smith School, the principal is Mrs. Wonder. She was unable to make it tonight. She did have surgery, so she was not able to make it tonight. But in her place, we do have Mrs. Cawley, who is there. Thank you, Jillian. She's waving. Mrs. Cawley is our supervisor of special services, and her office is at Smith School, so she does help out there as well. And then at Long Memorial School, we have Mrs. Jenkins, who is there. There she is. Hi, Mrs. Jenkins. Thank you. Administrative assistants, you can see their names. So it's Candy True. I think that's how you pronounce her last name. The nurse and the school counselor. Those school counselors are going to be your friends. They really help out with the kindergarten classrooms, especially at the beginning of the year. They also, each of these buildings does have 2 classrooms for each grade level. So there's 2 kindergarten classrooms, 2 first grade classrooms, and so forth. Some of the classrooms are inclusion classrooms where you have 2 teachers. You have a general ed teacher and a special education teacher. And that does not mean that the majority of students in that class are special education. It just means that there's at least 1 child in that class that is the IEP states that they have an inclusion classroom. So the inclusion classrooms have 2 teachers and the same number of students. So you will see some classrooms with 2 teachers, and both of those teachers are your child's teacher. Okay, the special ed teacher is not the special ed student's teacher, and the general ed teacher is not the non-special ed student's teacher. They're both the teachers for that classroom. So that is what an inclusion classroom is. So you can reach out to any one of those. As far as special education goes, if your child does receive special education services, they do have an individualized education plan, an IEP. And if they have occupational therapy, physical therapy, speech therapy, those are services provided that are within your child's IEP. We also have, in the district, just for your knowledge, we do have ABA classrooms, which is applied behavioral analysis. mostly for students with autism, but there might be a couple with other diagnoses. And they are one's at Long School, 2 are at Smith, and we're starting 1 at the middle school, high school next year. And then we have resource rooms for some special education students, as well as LLD classrooms. So there are different services that the district does provide based upon what each child needs. Okay, so here's some important information. You have our superintendent is Mrs. Danielle Shanley. She is housed at the Board of Education offices, which is connected to the high school. Then we have our Board of Education. So I'm just going to click on these so you can see each one. All of this information is on our district site. Our Board of Education meets twice a month on a Monday and a Wednesday, but action is taken on the Wednesday. That's when most parents will join, and you can hop on. Right now, they're all virtual, and they talk about what's going on in the district, and they approve personnel and policies and things like that. So you can see our president, Mrs. Mahoney, vice president, Mrs. Roloff, and all of the Board of Education members are listed on this page with their emails that you may reach out to them. We also have parent-teacher organizations, PTOs. So we strongly encourage every parent to join the PTO for your child's school. Each PTO does have a Facebook group page, but it's also on our website. So if you go on our website and you go for under for parents, you'll find Franklin Schools PTO information, Long Schools PTO information, and Smith Schools PTO information. And you can email them and make sure that they know that you want to join. And they do a lot of good things for our students, really focus a lot on just enhancing your child's experience in the building. So they're great organizations to join. There's also, if your child does have an IEP, there also is a special education parent advisory committee that you would be receiving notices of with your child's IEP. And then the last organization we're going to discuss is the Saddlebrook Education Foundation, the SBEF. They are a foundation that they provide funding for different projects and initiatives across our district to all of our schools. So they don't single out one school. Like a PTO works. PTO really raises money and funds for one building, whereas the SBEF raises funds for the entire district. And they typically host 2 events a year. They typically host a walk and a tricky tray. And you can see some of the information on their website. With COVID, that those events did not happen, but I'm sure that they're looking to start them up again next year. It's a great way to get involved and also raise a lot of money for our schools. A lot of our students, I believe last year, right before COVID, they purchased mini whiteboards for every student in the district. And that really was a huge help to us when we went to virtual learning. So definitely a great organization to join. Let me close some of these. Any questions so far? Does anyone have any questions about what I've shared so far? Okay. So some daily procedures. And, principals, feel free to jump in if I'm missing anything, but just a very simple, you're going to receive a lot of details from your child's principal before the start of the school day. But really simple, the morning drop-off time will be sometime between 8:35 and 8:45. Your child's principal will let you know which door to use. And, as things are changing with COVID, they'll let you know what the current procedures are going to be. So, this school year, things were a little different. We're hoping to get somewhat back to some normalcy in September, and we'll have to see what the guidance is from the state. Excuse me. However, like I said, your child's building principal will be able to reach out with more details about that. Pickup time for a full day is 3:05 p.m. And then on a half day, on a minimum day session, it's 1:00 p.m. Okay, visitor information. Each building does have security vestibules. If you are dropping off something for your child, you're not allowed to enter the building. You go into the security vestibule area. You have to ring to enter that security vestibule area. Once you're in, you tell the main office why you're there. If you're dropping something off, there's baskets there. You drop it off. You put a Post-it on it with your child's name, and the main office makes sure that your child receives it. So there is no more walking around the building or bringing something to your child. Everything stays in that security vestibule area. If you do have a meeting or an appointment, you do have to bring identification with you. So I would suggest having your license on you. You do have to show identification in order to enter a school building. There will be the handbook that will be shared with you. It's shared at the beginning of every year, and that will have all the details about your school building, all the rules within it. It'll have the attendance policy. The attendance policy simply says that your child should be at school. You are required to call in absences. So you call them into the school nurse's office, and then, you know, after a certain number of absences, you'll receive a letter from the main office. So if you have 5 absences, you receive a letter, 10 absences, and then you have a meeting with the principal to figure out what's going on, and what we could do to help you out with having your child attend school. You'll be receiving e-blasts through our school messenger account. And then each building typically has either a Twitter or an Instagram or both. So your building's principal will be able to let you know. And I would suggest joining those social media accounts because they share lots of things, you know, what's happening in your child's school. You'll also find lots of information on our website and also the virtual backpack. So once your information is in Genesis, you automatically receive weekly emails on the virtual backpack. And this information is also on our website. And you'll see one side's the district backpack, and that has all the events happening in our district. We just had the Xanadu show by our middle school, high school drama department. Then we have a book drive, a Smith PTO clothing drive. And then to the right, you see the community backpack, the fishing derby and things happening in the community. All right, what to expect in kindergarten. There's a lot of information on here. I'm going to be talking a whole lot. This is sort of my field as curriculum person. So if you have any questions at this point, please feel free to unmute yourself as I take a little sip of water. No questions. All right, I can't wait to do this in person again. It's very eerie talking to yourself. Okay. What to expect in kindergarten. So we follow Reading and Writing Workshop. Reading and Writing Workshop is a developmentally appropriate program that meets your child at their level. So some of the assessments that will be completed at the beginning of the year are listed there. So CAP is concepts about print. And I just wanted to go over a little bit about what each of these are, just so that you're aware what's happening in the classroom with your child. So these will be done at some point in the fall. Concepts about print really just tries to assess where your child's at with their experience with books and with reading. So, you know, every child enters kindergarten with different experiences. Some have attended preschool, some have not. Some have had parents or family members that read to them every night, and some have not. Some have, you know, just they're inherently just love reading, and others do not. And there's no right or wrong. And our job is to just figure out where they're at and then work with them to build them up. So the concept about print does just that. Talks about the book orientation, if they know how to read a book, how to hold the book the right way, how to turn the pages. Talks about the directional arrangement of the print on the page. So are they reading left to right, top to bottom? The knowledge that the print, not the picture, tells the story, so that the words actually have meaning. Let's say, talks about reading terminology, that they know what a word is, what a letter is, where the beginning of a sentence is, where the top of the page is. So the way it works with the concepts about prints, the teacher will actually sit with your child and they'll talk about a book. They'll have a book, they'll talk about it, they read it to the child, and then they ask some questions. Some of the questions that they ask will be like, you know, can you help me with this book? Where do you think I should start? And then they look to see like what the child is able to share. And then they'll read a line on a page, they'll finish that page, and then they'll say, okay, what do I do next? Where do I go? And they're looking to see if the child knows to turn the page, to go to the next page. They'll read to the end of a first line, and then they'll say, where do I go next? And they'll see if the child goes to the next page or knows to read the second line. So there's sort of things here that they just kind of look for. They'll ask the child, can you show me a word? Can you point out a word to me? And then if they're able to point out a word, can you point out the first letter of that word? And they kind of gauge where the child's at. And then from there, they determine if they're going to go any further. So they do this assessment a couple times a year. So there's no expectations at all. They do this, they start off, and depending upon where each child's at, they might go a little bit deeper. So they might start asking questions, where's the front of the book, the back of the book? Show me where the words are. Where should I start reading? They're looking to see if your child's one-to-one correspondence, if they're pointing to the words as they're reading it. And then the punctuation. And so as they progress through, they're looking for different things, but it's all concepts about print, and they will do that a couple times out of the year. The letter ID. The letter ID is really what it sounds like. They're talking about what each letter looks like and making sure they can match the sounds. They do upper and lowercase letters. The lowercase letters, just so that you know, A and G both appear 2 times because they appear in different fonts. So if you think about it on a computer screen or in a book, The A and G will look differently depending on which font is used. So those appear twice, but the child only has to recognize one of them. They're not required to recognize both. And again, this assessment is done a couple times out of the year, and they're just looking to see if a child can identify what the letter is, the name of the letter, and the sound that the letter makes. The high frequency word assessment, that's the sight word assessment. Those are, sight words are, the purpose is to promote that automaticity. So you want to make sure your child knows these words without thinking about it, because then that will help free up some of their short-term memory and really help them focus on the comprehension as they read. Now, there's no expectation that kindergartners start off knowing any sight words. So let me start with that. That's what they're going to work on. But as they go throughout the year, they'll do sight word assessments with your child throughout the year. And that's where they figure out where to, all of these together, the sight words, the letter ID, the concepts about print, that's what the teachers use to figure out what your child needs. That's what they use to guide their instruction. So they'll do a small strategy group. So if there's like 5 students that need assistance with specific letters and sounds, they're going to pull those 5 students to a small group and work with them. So that this is all the information that they receive from these assessments are what they use to guide their instruction. And it's all embedded in the curriculum. So everything a kindergarten teacher does is focused around all of this. So, they talk about sounds, they talk about letters, they have a morning message, they read it together as a class. They may write a morning message together as a class. As they read it, they point to each word as they read it. They talk about where the punctuation is. They talk about where the capital letter is. Can you find the letter B? They circle the letter B. So everything that they do in the classroom is all embedded. This is all embedded within it. And that's why they do these assessments a couple times out of the year, because kindergarten students really grow. They're like sponges, and they really pick up on the knowledge, and they just keep on moving. So they keep the teachers on their feet for sure. All right, running records. Running records are not completed until the winter. So they're not completed till January or February. Excuse me, for some reason, whenever I do these, I get a tickle in my throat. What a running record is the child actually will sit down with the teacher and they'll talk about a book. So the teacher will introduce the book and the child, and then, they'll give a short summary, synopsis of the book. And then they'll do a book walk together. They'll go through the book, talk about what's on the pages. And then they sort of start off, and if the child needs support, they'll start off reading the first or second page. If the child does not need the support, the child will just start reading. And we know what they're looking for is not the fluency and not the accuracy. At that point, they're really looking for the concepts about print. So they're really looking to see that they're pointing to each word, that they have that one-to-one correspondence. They're looking to see that they're able to retell a little bit. And the teacher might prompt them. So they're not expected to retell the story on their own. The teacher might say, well, what happened first? What happened after that? And then based upon that, they might ask more specific questions. So if the student's not able to share a really strong retell, they might ask, well, what happened with the man at the beginning of the story? What did he say? Or how did this man feel at the end of the story? So they'll ask some guiding questions. But level A and B are just concepts about print. And those are done, like I said, they're not assessed until January or February using running records. And then C and D gets a little bit more into it with the accuracy, where they're expected to really learn how to decode those words. And a kindergarten student, our hope is that they leave kindergarten reading at a level D, but there's no pressure there. We have students that leave kindergarten at an A, a B, a C, a D, an F, a G. So they're all over the place. And that's completely fine. So that's our goal. That's what we work towards. Reading is definitely a big part of what kindergarten is. And like I said, it's embedded within everything that they do in that classroom. I'm just going to look over my notes and make sure I did not forget anything from those areas. Any questions about those reading or phonics assessments?
I had a question. Hi. Do you guys offer speech therapy classes if the student needs it?
So speech therapy is included within a child's IEP. So they do need to be evaluated by the child's study team, and they have to have an individualized education plan. And any therapy, like occupational physical speech, has to be part of their individualized education plan.
Okay, when do they talk about that?
Not every child would qualify for special education services. If you have a concern about your child, you could reach out to actually Mrs. Cawley, our supervisor of special services, who's on this call, Jillian Cawley. You could reach out to Mrs. Cawley, and she'll be able give you some guidance.
Oh, thank you.
You're welcome. You're welcome. You know, and the other thing I'll mention too is that with speech and with physical therapy and occupational therapy, schools like need to, when they provide it, it has to affect their academics. So, you know, a lot of times with speech, I believe it's the R and the L sounds are the last to form, and they don't typically form to second grade, I want to say. You know, so when we see it really affecting their academics, affecting their reading, affecting their comprehension, then that's when the school will recommend services such as that. Okay. But a parent has, you can reach out to Mrs. Colley and she'll be able to let you know a little bit more information.
I have a question. When you mentioned about the assessments being embedded into the curriculum, does that entail the child being evaluated and given a different level of work or more work, etc.?
No, it's a good question. So every time they do the assessments, the teachers will kind of change their groups up. So a lot of kindergarten work is done in small groups because, as you can imagine, 25-year-olds all together, it's really tricky to get them all on the same page. So a lot of kindergarten curriculum is administered in small groups. And there's 2 teachers in the kindergarten classrooms. There's sometimes a para, and they kind of work with the students within those small groups. So every time these assessments are done, the child is given work that's at their level. So they're not going to be reviewing sight words that they already know. They might have those sight words as practice because you want to keep up the practice, but they'll be also learning new ones.
Okay, great. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Hi, Mrs. Liatelli.
Hi.
Ada here. So this is our 3rd one going into kindergarten.
Okay.
So we kind of know the drill, I guess. But the what expected in kindergarten, I see the list of I guess areas. I see science and social studies, things, communication. Can you just quickly give in, because I don't think that was for the first 2 that went for that experience we didn't see. So I was maybe perhaps talk about if anything's changed.
Yeah, absolutely. You got it.
Yeah.
All right. So I only covered the reading and writing workshop piece. The next piece is the mathematics. There's also a new math program next year. And I just wanted to talk about it a little bit, just because it covers a lot of social emotional learning is included in the math program. And it focuses a lot on the students' reflection of their thinking. So it promotes a lot of conversation among the students to talk about the way that they're thinking about the math problem. And that's one of the reasons why this program was chosen. It was chosen through a group of teachers that were on the committee. It really focuses on the math vocabulary and productive struggle. That's what they call it. And they, it's providing the appropriate level of struggle where, a child gets a little bit uncomfortable, but not too uncomfortable. So the math program focuses on fluency, has routines. And one of the other reasons why it was chosen was because it starts off each lesson with what they call an ignite activity. And that's to really spark your child's interest, get them interested in what the concepts are, what the concepts relate to in their real world. It might present a problem, and it really focuses on the growth mindset. And you can see some of the wordings on these posters on this slide that has to do with the growth mindset. We really try to focus on, kids sometimes just instantly compare themselves to their peers, and that's not life. So we really want them to focus on what they're able to do and what they're not able to do, and they're not able to do it yet. And that's okay, because they're going to get there. All right. And we really focus on making mistakes is how you learn. Make them, because if you didn't make them, you're not trying. So we're really trying to really focus on that SEL piece and really building their confidence, because what we find is you build their confidence and they start performing. As far as Project Read is our phonics program, it is a new program that our kindergarten teachers use. These are the components of it. Oops. And you can see it focuses on concepts of print, letter formation. So it's the handwriting program as well that focuses on how to write the letters. And you can see down here, it tells you how to how to draw the lines. And yes, there is a right way, top to bottom. So, they focus on that, how to properly form the letters, and then the sounds that the letters make. So this is the phonics program that they use to really go through all those letters, sounds, and concepts of print as well.
Ms. Violetti, can I interrupt you for 1 second?
Yes, go right ahead.
The name of our new math program is escaping me and Mrs. Jenkins.
It's Reveal
and
Math.
What's it called?
Reveal Math. It's by McGraw-Hill.
Reveal Math. Okay, so I'm going to put that in the chat just so
Thank
people
you.
have that. There's been a few questions. Thank you.
You know, and for anyone, you know, anyone not concerned, but anyone who's curious, there's a committee of about 10 teachers. We demoed, I want to say 10 math programs or 8, and then we looked at 3 even closer. And then we all put together a narrative about each of those 3, and we took a vote. So that was the process for that.
I actually have a follow-up, Ms. Violetti. I'm sorry, I'm asking too many questions. So, you know, with the new generation of kindergarteners, it
Yeah.
seems to be a lot smarter than many when we were younger. So I'll give you one example of our child. He's very, you know, with YouTube, not YouTube, you know, with the phonics app on his iPad or what have you. He seems to be, he's learning, he knows, but without the knowledge of comprehending what he knows. He knows a lot, but he doesn't know what he knows.
Right.
And we've been trying to get him to write. His writing is very, let's just say, poor now, but his communication, his pronunciation, his speech, and things of that sort are very advanced. So I feel like the writing piece of it, he's lagging much behind for kids of that sort. And I'm sure all his classmates would be in similar boat because they watch, they sing without knowing what they're singing to, phonics and things of that sort. How do you, or what is your recommendation or suggestion how we, you know, prepare them so that they're, you know, moving in a similar way as far as the writing aspect of it is concerned? Because my concern is they're very behind on the writing piece of it.
Right. So the writing piece is tricky because what's tricky about teaching your child how to write is that you don't want to do it the wrong way. You don't want to do it a way that they're going to learn differently in school. Because I can tell you that my son learned on his own and he still does not, he's 17 years old and does not hold the pencil correctly. And it's the most frustrating thing to me. So you really kind of want to wait until they start kindergarten and talk to your child's kindergarten teacher, you know, and what strategies they have for holding the pencil correctly. You want to know the language that they use in forming the letters. So there's specific language that's used within that Project Read program. And that's how the children remember how to write the letters and how to form them. So for the writing specifically, I would definitely recommend waiting until your child starts kindergarten and working with your child's kindergarten teacher. I just want to continue here. So your child might get homework. If they get homework, it's not going to be overloaded with homework, but they're definitely encouraged to practice some of those skills at home. Lunch orders. So this information is on our district website. We use Pomptonian. And you can find the menus here. Most of the kindergarten classrooms will have the menu printed out and have the parents circle for maybe the week or the month what lunch or breakfast your child wants. 2 of our schools have breakfast programs. It's with Title I funded money. So that's Smith School and Franklin School. And then all 3 schools do have lunch programs. And your child's building principal will be able to give you more information about that. But you can see the menu. It's definitely very varied. It's all on here. Dairy safe lunch, egg safe lunch, fish safe. So all of these menus, there's different menus for you to choose from, and then you can choose where your child wants to eat. So the kindergarten teachers will work with you, especially at the beginning of the year. I'm not sure what's going to change with COVID or not for next year, but without COVID, our kindergarten teachers eat in the our kindergarten students eat in the cafeteria. It definitely takes a little bit for them to balance their tray. So they line up, they have their tray, they have their milk or chocolate milk, they pick out their lunch, and then it's really adorable watching them walk back to their table and trying to balance that tray. They do it. There's a lot of support in the lunchroom. We have lunch aides in each building, and there's teachers on duty as well. And they do it. They, you know, and at the beginning of the year especially, we work really closely with the kindergarten students. And if they drop something, they're always given something. So they're not left without any food. So please don't worry about that. Let's say most classrooms start with a morning meeting, just a discussion, getting to know your child. Science and social studies is completed as well in kindergarten. We do have a new science program next year as well. But science and social studies, especially in kindergarten, is very hands-on. Those are very project-based. The kids are actively learning. They're in small groups. It's very hands-on, and your teachers will be able to tell you a little bit more about that as the year starts. There is a snack in kindergarten, as well as lunchtime. And as far as communication goes, the kindergarten teachers communicate a lot. So some parents love it, some parents don't. Don't be frustrated by it. I think, the theory behind it is that it's better to communicate with the parents. We're in this together, we're a team. So you'll find a lot of communication with your teachers, especially at the beginning of the year. And then as the year progresses, they'll be in touch as they need to be. But please don't hesitate to reach out. They are there for you. We have some of the best kindergarten teachers around.
I have a quick question, if I
Yes.
may. So some parents are divorced, separated, so they share custody and they share the legal custody. Sometimes they have equal parenting time. So the thing is, in certain situations, their parents don't talk to each other. So how do the school deal with that, making sure that both parents get the appropriate information from the school?
So we have a parent portal that I will share in a little bit. And on that parent portal, you put the contact information. So you need to make sure it's noted in there, excuse me, both parents' information. And then make sure, what I would do to follow up is just confirm with your child's principal that you both receive that notification. But typically everything is sent, all our communication is done via Genesis. So it typically does go out to every parent email address that has an account. So you have to set up your parent account. Once you have that parent account, communication automatically goes to you. But if you want to just confirm, I would make sure you tell your child's teacher and make sure you tell your child's principal that, you both want to receive communication. And then, when there's court orders involved, you do need to take that court order and send it to the main office as well. So that way they're aware of any custodial issues and things like that, because that does happen as well. The communication piece is key.
Thank you.
You're welcome. What else do you need to know? Kindergarten is very busy. So kindergarten students do go to all their specials, and those are their specials listed there. Physical education, PE, is 2 times a week. Media Center is our library, and then they also focus on our technology standards as well. And then our world language is Spanish. We have one Spanish teacher across all 3 schools. And so with kindergarten, she typically consults with the kindergarten teachers and provides activities for the kindergarten teachers to complete. Because she's one person across all 3 schools, she doesn't necessarily get to visit every kindergarten classroom. Let me shut off my walkie-talkie. Sorry, I didn't think anyone was in the building. I was wrong. Okay, let's see. Practice lunch, I went through all that. Each building does also have a reading specialist. That reading specialist will also work with your child's teacher. And really, mid-year, if your child's teacher is like, oh, they might come into your child's classroom and work with a small group of students. So if they have time allotted in their schedule, they'll be able to go in and just provide another small group instruction in your child's classroom. So that may happen as well. This is our parent portal. So it's on our district website, and it's right on here in the top right. So once you receive an email from Genesis explaining how to set up your parent access. And then once you have your account, everything is in here. So you have the ability, and you're required to update your contact information, make sure the right phone numbers are there, the right emails are there. And then your child's report card will also be done through Parent Portal. It's not printed out any longer, so you have to log into Parent Portal to access it. Right now during COVID, parents are taking attendance, but typically the teacher will take attendance and you can see it as a parent in your Parent Portal. So that is an important item to make sure that you do set up once you receive that email. So you won't receive it until closer to the start of the school year, because that's when the whole system will roll over. AlphaBest is our before and after care program. And again, this information is on our website as well. It's under For Parents, and then it'll take you right to the AlphaBest site. So there is a summer program, there's a before school program, and there's an after school program at each of the buildings. We do have school uniforms. There is a school uniform policy. It's also linked on our website, but you can also ask, each building will be able to provide it for you. It's typically provided at orientation where we print it out and give it to you. It is on the website, and I will be sharing this slideshow, so you'll have access to this as well. But this kind of explains what the regular uniform is and what the gym uniform is. And yoga for classrooms, that's something that we use in our elementary buildings. And it comes with these cards. So each teacher does have a deck of these cards, and they focus on these yoga activities a couple times a day. So they'll learn, your child will come home learning about a balloon breath or a belly breath and different things, a tree pose. So just some different calming activities to get them to refocus throughout the day. We don't really want kindergarten students, especially, sitting for the day. We want to make sure they're up, they're moving, they're refocusing. And really, it's not just kindergarten, it's all of K to 6. So we want to make sure that everyone is just fully engaged at all times. As far as the first day of school, you know, your child's building principal will have to send out those details because we're not sure what the guidelines are going to be from the governor at this time. So typically, first day of school, the kindergarten parents do walk your child into the classroom. I'm not certain that that's going to be permitted next year in the fall, so we'll have to see. And then we'll provide guidance as we receive it. And I put this picture here because we do have a district SEL committee. SEL stands for social emotional learning. And these are the 5 components of SEL that we really focus on. And actually, one of the reasons why we chose that math program is because they focus on these same 5 social competencies as well. So, you know, really focusing on self-awareness, managing themselves, making good decisions, strong relationships, and being aware of what's going on in the world around them. So a lot of what we do as a district is focused on those 5 social competencies. All right, so how do you prepare your child? I'm just going to look at my notes really quick to make sure I didn't forget anything there. But if anyone has any questions before I start this slide, please go ahead and ask.
I had a question about twins.
Yes.
Do you guys have a policy on that? Like, do you separate them? Is it up to the parents?
It's up to the parents. Parents have the right to, parents have the right to say what they want. A teacher might make a recommendation. A teacher, you know, in kindergarten, you might want them together if it's easier. You know your children best. So if you want them together, you want them separated, that's your choice. A lot of times what happens, because I used to be a building principal, is the teachers or the principal will be able to tell if it's really working or not. And then they'll provide a recommendation for the next year. And they'll just say, you know what, either they're missing each other tremendously and they're not able to focus if they stay together, or they're together and they're not focusing on the teacher, so they should be separated. They'll provide a recommendation, but not until they get to know your children. Really, and you have the right as a parent of twins to make that choice every year.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
I don't know.
Okay. All right. So how do you prepare your child for all of this fun stuff? First of all, you're doing it. You're here, you're at orientation. You know, you're learning with the, oh yeah, go ahead.
Since she spoke about twins, what about siblings? We had my daughter's gonna the end of her first grade year and she's gonna be going into second. We got a son going into kindergarten, and we had Miss Alling, and we love Miss Diaquino too, but can we request to have Miss Alling as well?
Nope.
No.
There are no parent requests. And I'll explain. So, you know, there's no parent request for the reason that there's a lot that goes on in a school building. There's a lot of children that have special needs. There's a lot of different assignments. There's a lot of scheduling that goes on. There's a lot of there's basic skills teachers that need to be part of the scheduling. There's the reading specialist that needs to be part of the schedule. There's certain things like each grade level should have math at the same time. Each grade level should have English. So like there's certain scheduling aspects that make it really difficult to plan for the classes. Because if a child has an IEP, it's mandatory that they receive those services. So as simple as it sounds for a parent perspective, you know, this would really benefit, you know, we had such a good relationship. It's not always the case. That being said, you know, we do class placement and we try our best to really determine where, you know, the child's going to work best and who they're going to work best with. It's a team effort. So, you know, they work together and they try to figure it out. The thing with kindergarten students is that they don't really know your child yet. If they know that you had a sibling and it worked really well with that teacher, there's a chance. However, there's never a guarantee. And no, there's no request taken. Okay. So what can you do to prepare your child? So really talking to your child. That's the key. And it's really talking to them about everything. So, you know, talk to them about the letters in their name. You know, make sure, you know, they can work on the letters in their name. That's a great place to start. What's the first letter? What sound does that make? Or what's the first sound you hear in your name? How many claps are in your name? Syllables. You can create matching games like on index cards with uppercase and lowercase letters, and they match them. talk about the letters. That's actually the biggest thing. Oh, this letter is a really tall letter. It has a long line in it. This letter is curved. It has a little arc in it. So like you want to talk to them about what the letters look like, because that's how they're going to identify them in kindergarten. You know, you could, oh, here's the word and. It's 2 short letters and 1 tall letter. It's things that you don't really think about to do. But when you talk about the letters, oh, this one has a circle in it. This A is round. And you could sort them. If you have magnetic letters, sort them. These have straight lines. These have curved lines. You know, you do the colors. You can count objects. So like, you know, it's just that one-to-one correspondence with words and with objects, with counting. So all of that is really helpful. Name the letters. Don't focus so much on reading sight words. They learn that in kindergarten. They're going to learn the letters as well, but if you can have like a little bit head start with naming letters, that's big. So if they can identify what the letter is, that's a head start. You know, talk about, as they write letters, talk about what letter it is and the sound that it makes. You could write letters using like finger paint, make letters out of Play-Doh, write in sand, write on a piece of paper, pen and pencil, a marker, whatever they like to do, write the letters and just talk about it with them. That's really the key word. As you read with them, point to each word as you read. Talk about the book. Talk about, oh, I'm going to start here. You start at the top of the page. You start on the left side. So the more you talk to them about it, the more they're going to remember what to do. I mean, and all of these skills, you know, when kindergarten starts, and we've all been there. And when it starts, it's like you're nervous about your child. And every kindergarten, I will start by saying every single kindergarten class in every single building has a child that screams and cries crazy for a couple of days, and then it stops. And the moment you go away, it does typically stop. So there are so many times when I was building Principal that a child would scream and cry, the parent would walk away devastated, and within 10 minutes, the child would stop and we would call the parent together and be like, totally fine. So, you know, don't be worried. They're in really good hands. The counselors in each building are very capable, and they're all hands-on at the start of the school year in kindergarten. So, you know, every child just starts off differently. And it's sort of like, you know, I always equate it to like a 6-month-old as opposed to a 12-month-old. You know, there's only 6 months difference, and there might be only 6 months difference between 2 kindergarten students, but that's a world of a difference. So when you look at a 6-month-old and you look at a 12-month-old, it's a world of a difference in what they're able to do. And that same disparity is going to be found in kindergarten. So it's really, try your best not to compare your child to others, because they're not the same, and they're not supposed to be the same. So that is my little tip. What's next? You'll receive a parent guardian questionnaire from each building. And that's just going to ask you questions about your child to get to know your child a little bit better, what their previous experiences were, what you feel they need support in, what they like, so the teacher can relate to them a little bit. And then each building will reach out to you to schedule a screening. And that screening will probably be, I'm not guaranteed yet, I'm not positive, but probably be small groups of students coming in, separated, work in different areas of the classroom with different teachers. And at that screening, they typically look at coloring, they look at letters. Excuse me. They'll see what letters they know, if any. They'll practice counting with them, see if they're able to count. They'll practice cutting. So they just kind of go through and do a different activity, and then that's it. Then they go home. So that's going to happen. I always put this cartoon on my slides because I just love this one because it's so true. The first day of school, you're trying to get your child off of the tree and try to get your child away from you. And the first day of college, and I'm getting there. My son's a junior. So the first day of college, you're just like, oh, it changes. And that's the whole thing. I mean, people say, I heard a lot of parents say that the days are long, but the years are short. And it's very true. So enjoy the start of kindergarten. It's an exciting time. It's fun. You're fortunate, you know, that you have this opportunity with your child. They're starting kindergarten. They're going into the building. It's going to be a good time. This is our calendar. It is posted on our website as well. All of this information can be found on our website. But I just wanted to let you know that the first day of school is going to be Friday, September 3rd. It's a half a day, so it's a 1 o'clock dismissal. And then we are closed that Monday and Tuesday. And then the 8th and the 9th are also single session days. So you can see the calendar there. Oops. I did not disable my annotation there, sorry. Okay, that is our contact information. And if I knew how to delete those red lines right now, I would do it, but I think it's too late. But you can still see our contact information. So you have Lori Cohen's the principal at Franklin, Deborah Wonders the principal at Smith, and Jane Ellen Bear Jenkins is the principal at Long. Like I said, Deborah Wonder did have surgery. She's out for a couple of days. Mrs. Cawley's in her place right now. You can reach out to Mrs. Cawley, or you could wait about a week, and Mrs. Wonder will make sure she gets back to you. And that's my information at the bottom. Any district-wide information, any district-wide questions, anything that you have after this presentation that you didn't want to ask and you want to ask it to me, just reach out to me. I don't mind at all. We want to make sure that your experience is as pleasurable as possible with your child entering kindergarten. It's a big moment. Any questions? No questions? Well, that is, let me just make sure. I know it's a whole lot of information, but I'm pretty sure that is all I have. So what I'm going to do is I will take this recording. I will post it on our website. I'll email it to you all as well because it does have the links in there. But like I said, all of those links are included on our website. So you just have to go to our website, SBPSNJ, Saddlebrook Public Schools of New Jersey. SBPSNJ.org is our website. And all of our emails are the first initial last name at SBPSNJ.org.
I just have one question.
Yes.
Every time I keep uploading my daughter's immunization records and they keep saying that it's missing. I don't understand. I've been emailing, but I haven't got a response.
Is there a save button after you upload it?
Everything. Yeah, it's all saved. Even when I go in and look at it, it's still there. It's very odd.
Okay, who are you emailing?
The Saddlebrook, the Access, something like that.
Oh, you know what? Why don't you, if you send me an email, tvioletti@sbpsnj.org. And then my office, they do that in my office, so I can find out the answer for you.
All right, thank you so much.
You're welcome. Okay, any other questions?
I had one about busing. Does the school provide busing for students to and from, or?
I believe it's within 2 miles. You do not get a bus. You have to be outside of 2 miles from the school.
Where would I find out?
You would find out by calling the Board of Education, Linda Croce.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so call the Board of Education and ask to speak with Mrs. Croce, CROCE, and she'll be able to let you know if you qualify.
Great, thanks.
You're welcome.
When are these forms due? Like if you're like my child's already a student at Washington, so he's in the district. But I'm assuming I'd have to send the immunization records again and the physical again. So when would that have to be in by?
The sooner the better, because your child won't be part of the screening process until all the information is in. I do not know if your child attends Washington School. They're already in our district. I'm honestly not positive if they need to re-up their immunization.
Yeah, because everything like that they needed this year, he has. So the physical was, so I'm not sure like if I would have to do that again closer to September or if it's still, valid.
If you want, you can email myself. You could email Dr. Reisenauer at Washington School, either one of us, and I'll look into it tomorrow because I don't have a firm answer on that.
Okay, no problem. Thank you.
No problem.
Excuse me, I have a question.
Yes.
My son did not attend preschool at all, and I work every day, but I'm trying to teach him numbers, letters, and he's confusing the two. I've also tried tracing letters with him. He just doesn't care. He'd rather go build me a house. Is there any kind of like tutoring that I could put him through during the summer or anything you could suggest to help advance him before he gets into kindergarten?
Not that we don't have that in our district. We have the only summer program is extended school year, which is for special education students. But I mean, I will tell you, like I said, every child enters kindergarten at a different level and they pick up on it quickly. So I would just suggest not stressing about it. They let him build because you know what, that's going to be his specialty then. He'll figure out the letters. I mean, sometimes they have to be motivated to do it. And sometimes that motivation comes when they're in a classroom with 20 other students their age and they're like, oh, I have to learn this. And then they really pick up on it quickly. So really sometimes it's almost like potty training where there's like a readiness factor involved. So I wouldn't stress about it. I would just, enjoy the summer. Listen, it's been a tough year. Enjoy the summer, let him play, let him build. And then when he starts kindergarten, they'll work on it. That's why we have kindergarten.
Okay, great. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
I have another question, if I may.
Yes, please.
I live in a different school district. So basically my daughter will have a choice to either go in the school district of my hometown versus my ex. So my question is, just to compare both school district, is there any possibility of like some virtual tour, or is there any way we can, how can we know more to compare both?
What I would suggest is to reach out to the building principal. Do you know which school they would go to if they stayed with you?
It's Mackenzie School in East Rutherford.
No. Which school in Saddlebrook?
I don't know that as of.
Okay. So I would find out what school, which you can find out by calling the board office.
But I think it's Franklin though, because Franklin is the nearest one.
Okay. So then I would just reach out to Mrs. Cohen who's on this call right now.
Okay.
I'm not sure, and I don't know if the principals know yet either, if in-person tours are going to be conducted right now. They might be done later in the summer. I'm not positive. I don't know what the plan is for parents. Every year we do a parent tour, but with COVID, it's not being done at this time. And I'm not sure what the guidance is going to be moving forward. So Mrs. Cohen or Mrs. Jenkins, is there any more information on that?
At this time, we haven't, we're still saying no visitors into our building. So we haven't, and we're working on our kindergarten screening, and that we know we want to be in person, but we have to figure out how to schedule it so that we keep all our students safe. But right now we're not having no visitors are really allowed into the building.
Right. I mean, if you can imagine, we're having we're working to arrange, 6th grade promotion and kindergarten celebrations as outdoor events still at this time.
Yeah.
We do typically under regular circumstances, I don't know what regular is anymore, but prior to COVID, you would be, in our buildings for some type of an orientation, but that doesn't always include a full building tour for parents, because that's usually happens when our schools have other students in them. And we usually try to not interrupt those classes too much, but we do usually, before the start of school, do some type of an event for parents and students to be welcomed onto our playgrounds. Sometimes it's like a kindergarten play date and a popsicle, and there's some other types of like unifications before the start of school. But like Mrs. Violetti said, reach out to the principals if you have any other maybe specific questions that are maybe like beyond facility and more like a programmatic question.
Thank you very much. Thank you to everybody.
You're welcome. Any other questions?
Hi, yes, I have a question. If the child on the assessments show that he is more advanced, but at the same time he's only a 5-year-old, is there a way or a possibility to advance him like during the year to the 1st grade or not?
To push him ahead, you mean to 1st grade?
Yes.
Anything's a possibility, but what I will say is that, there's a lot more to it. So you really want to look and see at the assessments that are taking place throughout the school year. And you want to, the whole thing is you don't want to skip anything. So there's such a strong foundation built in kindergarten at this point in time that really leads up to 1st grade, which is probably one of the hardest grade levels in today's world. So you don't want to skip anything, however, there is the possibility that, your child's going to perform extremely well. And then the teacher will have a conversation with you, or you can even bring it up to the teacher and you guys can talk about it. It would be a group decision based, with you, the building principal, the guidance counselor, and the teacher, like I said, with you. So that's a case by case basis. It's not typically recommended for that reason. However, it's been done. So it's a possibility.
Okay, I understand. Thank you very much for your
You're
answer.
welcome.
So actually, I have a lead on question to Katharina's. So does the school do some sort of assessment to determine whether if a child is advanced or above and beyond his, grade level? Is it, I mean,
Yeah.
we as parents want our kids to be always advanced.
Of course.
Yeah.
So we have a gifted and talented program that begins in first grade. So we start that off in first grade and it continues through sixth grade. So throughout their elementary years. Right now, the gifted and talented program it's run right now with COVID, it's completed virtually. However, it's typically done before the school day starts. And kids are chosen based upon teacher recommendation, parent recommendation. So there is a form on the website for parents to fill out. There's COGATS assessments involved. Those are taken in grades 2 and 6. There are the state scores are involved once they're at the testing age. But the kindergarten and first grade level, like I said, it starts in first grade, and that's more of looking at the whole child and looking at all of their assessments and seeing where they're at. As far as, meeting the child's needs though, like I said, the instruction in kindergarten is extremely differentiated. So it's really, they use all of the information that they receive from completing the assessments to group the students, partner them with a partner that's around the same reading level and really work together with them. So the instruction that they receive, it's no longer the way it was, well, at least when I was in school, where you're sitting and you're all facing forward and the teacher's teaching the entire class. It's really not done that way. So it's really done based upon what they need, because it's a waste of your child's time and it's a waste of the teacher's time to work on skills with them that they already have.
Right.
So they're going to really, so it really depends. And, those groups are fluid, and depending on the skill that they're working on, the groups might change. So the other thing I'd like to suggest is don't ask your child every day who's in their group and what do you do? Because the groups are going to change depending upon the activity, depending upon the specific skill. And it is, like I said, it's very hands-on in kindergarten. It's very them building their knowledge and creating it. There's also downtime too. So as much as I went over the curriculum and everything that they learn in kindergarten, and you're right, it's definitely, it's like, sometimes we call it the new first grade, but there's also downtime. So there's playtime that's valued, okay? The socialization skills, we're working on SEL, those social awareness skills are really important. So there are center activities that are completed where it's like free time for the students, almost choice centers. There's a term for it, but I think it's choice centers. And, they choose their center and they play with those items and they play with one another and they really work on their relationship skills, which is one of our social competencies.
Yeah. Most importantly, like it's the social aspect of it, the kids interacting with their peers and getting to know each other. And
that's a huge part of learning. It really, it is. And that's, when we talk about educating the whole child, that's definitely something that we're referring to.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Mrs. Violetti.
You're welcome.
Yeah.
Any other questions?
Sorry, I have another, quick question. So regarding the summertime, we are currently in a T-ball and Saddlebrook Little League. Is there anything else going on this summer that like Saddlebrook kids in the kindergarten level could connect?
I only know what the school does. I'm going to kind of, is there a parent on this call that can help out?
Maybe, I think that Alphabest is also running a camp this summer.
Oh, yes,
so
you're
maybe, right. Yeah. So maybe other kindergartners from the community would join together at that program.
Yeah, so on the district website under For Parents, you'll find the link to Alphabest, and that's the before aftercare program. And they do also run a summer camp. Thank you.
Oh, great. Thank you very much. Great.
Any other questions?
Here, the dog. Here she goes.
Any questions? Last chance.
No, perfect. Thank you so much for this session. A lot of great information.
Thank you all for joining us. I love doing kindergarten orientation. I love doing it in person better, but I will take this. And, we look forward to really meeting you all. And hopefully we will be able to have an in-person event, before the start of school. So we really all get to see each other. Yeah. But thank you very much. Have a great evening. Bye. Reach out if you have any questions. Bye.
Good night. Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, Rye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Oh, and thank you to the principals for working on the chat room. I'm seeing it all now.
Miss Alling rules.
If we have any further questions, would we email you directly?
Yeah, go right ahead. That's totally fine.
Hi. Okay.
Okay. Let me see. I have to stop sharing. That's the problem.